in a company called the Copy House. And the Copy House is basically, it's divided into three parts. There's one part of it which is e-learning, which also includes scripting and storyboarding. So that's Flash-based stuff, but also screencasting and things. And then on the other hand, I do copywriting, and I also do brand language.
When you sit down to write a script, whether it's for a screencast or something else, I guess what is the process you go through to get started?
Okay, well, I very much believe in, for any of my processes, I believe in having contact with my client and trying to workshop as much of what they want to get across as possible before anything else is done. So that includes focusing on the audience, and then focusing also on what particular kind of problems that audience have that need solving, or maybe even hurdles and things that they're kind of suspicious about, or the kind of things that might be obstacles to them getting where they need to be. And then we use those problems as the starting point for any kind of learning process. And even in some ways, when it's like for sales or marketing, you still work with the problems in a way. So then, so that's quite a kind of creative hands-on workshop, and I might even start to storyboard some of the script with them using post-it notes and drawings, and that's a way for them to kind of get sort of investment in what they're doing, and also to really feel whether what's happening is right. And post-it notes are a really great way to work with the client, because you can kind of move things around. They're easily discardable, and there's not, it's not like as heavy as something that's kind of formally scripted out. And I think that's the great thing about it, is that it is like a movable feast. And you can also track different elements of the script. So if you need to get in like the values of the company, or you need to get in I don't know, like particular stages in a process, you can have kind of storyboards of post-it notes running alongside each other and kind of mix them up. When that's kind of done with the client, then I take it away and I'd start to do the storyboarding myself. Sometimes I work with a visual guy who's much better at articulating these things in images than I am, but so it would be basically a rough outline, a skeleton, which they'd then sign off. And then that's when I start to produce the script. And then, so that script is basically intrinsically linked to the storyboard. And then once I've written the script, that's when the visual guy would come along and start to kind of plug in basically what's going to happen for each screen. Of course, the storyboard would be scripted according to like how many, like how long each one is, what the transition is between one sort of screen and the other.
As you, I guess, watch people get started in this process, I guess what are some of the biggest challenges you see people kind of come across in trying to storyboard or script out a project?
Well, it did happen once upon a time that I was working on an e-learning project, and it was for an accounts department in a really big corporation, and they had some new software that they needed to kind of let all of the accounts department know about, and how to use it. So they wanted to make a screencast. So as they were learning to use it, they didn't pre-script anything. They just they'd worked out their stages, they worked out which screen they wanted to go from one screen to the next to, but actually they realised that they ended up with a massively long, so they hadn't trimmed it down in any way at all. And so there were all sorts of unnecessary stages in between, and there were kind of hiccups and things. It wasn't trimmed, it wasn't edited basically down to its core details. It was kind of like, let's see if I can kind of explain. They're like, okay, so you have to go here, and then you could go here, and you could go here, and you could go here, but you're unlikely to want to do that. So let's just go back to the main story. So that would all be taken out, in the scripting process, because you'd realise you've only got like 2.5 minutes or whatever. So it's quite satisfying then to come into that company and say, you know, okay, let's just imagine that we have to chunk this up into small sections of time, and you've got like 10 problems you want to solve, and they're going, oh no, we're never going to solve them in that time. So like that prioritization kind of exercise, that's when you get the post-it notes out and you kind of like, oh well, we can't have that one, but we'll stick with these 3 or whatever.
So real quick, are there any tips or last pieces of advice you'd give to someone who is maybe storyboarding or scripting for a screencast?
Yeah, I think it can be quite fun to do that post-it note exercise, and if you kind of get the amount of time, so say it's like 2.5 minutes, you don't want it too long, get the amount of time and actually divide it up into time segments, and then think about what are your main points that you need to get across, and actually try and fit on the post-it notes. You could do it either with little scribbly images or just with writing, what you're going to do for each of those sections of time. So if every post-it note is like 10 seconds or 5 seconds, then you can get like a kind of strong idea of how you're moving from one screen to the other and what you can fit in. And that can be quite satisfying as well to do that.
What do you know? And now you're turning it around to